right now.
I really feel like there's a change in the air, and I left with hope.
Thank you for leading this country. You're a great leader. This solution is not going to be a singular thing. It's going to be multifaceted.
I thought it was an incredibly important moment for our country and for his presidency.
ICE is following through on its message to the Golden State that it better hold on tight after declaring sanctuary state status.
You know, I'm not running a popularity contest. I wouldn't be in this job. I mean, we're enforcing the laws enacted by Congress.
This morning, we are remembering prominent Christian evangelist Billy Graham.
There was a relentless pursuit in his life that was about Jesus.
1 in 6 Americans say that they read a Billy Graham book. That's more than 50 million Americans who've been impacted by him.
U.S. women's hockey team beating Canada to win their first gold medal in 20 years. USA snapping the Canadian Olympic winning streak in a shootout.
We'd like you to stay. We'd like you to stay from the first hour to the second hour, and dare I say the third hour. And if you have some time, take in Hemmer and Sandra.
We'd like you to stay watching the Fox News.
Just keep your pajamas on, don't go to work, get fired so that you can watch Brian.
Right. Oh. A lot of people do not sleep in pajamas, I understand. A lot of people just sleep with what they're wearing last.
That's what, oh.
Are those sleepers, or have they passed out?
Right, they could be. A lot of people are just like, I'm so exhausted. I gave it my all today.
I bet if we did a study, more people would do that on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning because they've gone out the night before.
Right. Well, especially if you know you want to wear it the next day.
Well, my dad used to do, like about 8:30 at night, is we'd look over and he'd be sleeping, snoring. And we'd go, Dad, you should go upstairs. And he goes, I'm just resting my eyes.
And you'd find him there in the morning?
Sometimes.
Okay. We did too.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining us on this Thursday. A very, very busy day. And it was a big day yesterday at the White House. Very, very emotional. As school shooting survivors and their families brought their story straight to President Trump.
The commander-in-chief now vowing to bring change in order to prevent more tragedies.
Kevin Corke is live at the White House on that powerful meeting, Kevin, and it's clear the president excels in these real situations.
Boy, it was tremendous. It was riveting. It was powerful. It was tear-inducing. The gentleman you can't see beyond the cameras here, Brian Cole and Eric Connor, inside the room, and I think I speak for everyone when I tell you I'll never forget this. The president, in fact, said as much on Twitter. Let me show you a tweet that he put out. He said, listen, I will always remember the time I spent today with courageous students, teachers, and families. So much love in the midst of so much pain. We must not let them down. We must keep our children safe. It was that kind of day yesterday, a powerful day for America, a conversation much needed. Here's just a bit of it.
There needs to be a significant change in this country because this has to never happen again. People need to feel safe, and parents shouldn't have to go through the idea of losing their child.
Should have been one school shooting, and we should have fixed it. And I'm pissed. Because my daughter I'm not going to see again. She's not here.
We're going to be very strong on background checks. We're going to be doing very strong background checks. Very strong emphasis on the mental health of somebody. It's not going to be talk like it has been in the past. We're going to get it done.
The last thing he said there, the most important, we're going to get it done. The White House working to make it happen. That is, make schools safer. Don't forget, there's another listening session coming up later today, guys. Of course, I'll have all the details. But for now, back to you.
All right, Kevin Corke, North Lawn of the White House. Thank you very much. You know, to the White House's credit, they televised the whole thing. It was not a photo op. You know, a lot of those things are photo ops. This was not a photo op because there was a genuine discussion. And the president also pretty much telegraphed things he's thinking about. He did talk about how, you know, tightening background checks, mental health, screening, things like that, but also how he would like to arm teachers and coaches and make sure if they were properly trained, because he made the case that, you know, it takes police officers 10 minutes on average to get to a school after somebody's made the call. A properly trained member of the faculty could neutralize the situation. In the meantime, the NEA has already come out and said teachers should focus on teaching and not being guards.
And there's a lot of people, too, that's one thing, maybe arming the teachers randomly if they were trained. They also talked about being able to arm the security people who often train. They talked about retired military that would be able to come down there and work in these area schools. And the other thing that was brought up by people like who are big NRA supporters like Senator Marco Rubio is, I'm for raising the age. A lot of people weren't for raising the drinking age from 18 to 19 to 21, and they said, how could you sign up for the military, yet you can't drink? Well, we did. We transitioned, and it happened.
Well, the president, other people have said, you guys wanted gun-free zones. That's what we gave you. Schools are gun-free zones, for the majority of them are. And then the shooter comes in, and there's no way to protect the innocent lives.
Because they know there are no guns
That's
there.
right. That's right. And you've heard these stories of shooters that say they pass by areas where they see the armed guards on the outside, and then they go for another target, a soft target. And so there are a lot of Republicans, a lot of gun owners. The NRA is saying it's not fair to penalize the people who are just trying to protect their families.
The Miami Herald writes a story today that this kid wasn't even kicked out of school. It's almost impossible to kick somebody out of school these days. When there's a kid who's a discipline problem, you were kicked out. Now they want to keep you involved somehow, and he was going to an adult school afterwards. Continuing education, and that's one of the problems. So to
Why
me,
is that? Does that affect their standings? They don't want to report disciplinary actions?
I understand, Ainsley, you don't want to give up on a kid, but I care about the 3,000 other kids if this kid's a danger. Yeah. And I think there's going to be not one answer. I think that if you fundamentally say, I don't want guns around my kids in schools, then you have to say to yourself, well, how do you expect them to be protected should someone decide to target your kid? So you have to give in some areas. And for people just to say we've had guns in this country from day one, we've had 300 million now, for you to get up in the morning and say, I have an idea, let's get rid of guns. Not only is it's not possible, and there's no sentiment to do that. You have to harden the target, at the same time make it harder for the people who have had a history of mental problems to get them.
Well, like you said, no one wants guns in our schools, but these shooters that go into our schools are giving us no choice, and that's why we're talking about this now.
I think the consensus was at the end of the day yesterday, they have started the conversation about what to do, and as Andrew Pollock, the father who said he was PO'd at the very beginning, what he said was, just put politics aside. Fix it now, work the politics out later. We're going to talk to Kellyanne Conway, counselor to the president. She's going to be with us about 20 minutes from right now.
And just lastly on this, there's not one school shooter who winged it. They all plan it intricately, and they look for the softness of the target. They don't want a gunfight. They want a slaughter. So if you know that and you can characterize some universal truths, then you could start countering it.
Well, one other thing that you also have to take into consideration, a lot of these shooters want to commit suicide and do it by going and engaging. They know that they can go out in a blaze of glory. We talked a bit about that yesterday. Yeah. But it all comes down to safety.
It all comes down to safety, keeping our schools safe, keeping the border safe, keeping our country safe, and that's been the president's message. The acting ICE director, Tom Homan, he's been on Fox a lot. He was on Fox in January, and he was talking about the sanctuary cities in California, and he said, you better hold tight, you better buckle up, California. We're going to go after these illegals. Well, a lot of the senators in California, the two senators there got mad, Kamala Harris and Dianne Feinstein. They said it's an inordinate abuse of power for you to say something like that. So he was back on Fox last night with Shannon Bream. She asked him about it, and he said, I don't care what you think. Listen.
I'm not running a popularity contest. I wouldn't be in this job. I mean, we're enforcing the laws enacted by Congress. We don't conduct raids. We conduct a targeted enforcement operation. We don't go in neighborhoods knocking on a bunch of doors looking for people different than us. Every person we arrest, we know exactly who we're going to arrest. We know exactly where we're going to arrest them based on a lot of intelligence, a lot of investigative work.
Think how illogical this whole argument is. People here illegally, an ICE unit constructed to kick illegals out and enforce immigration rules, and he has to qualify why he's acting within the law? It's bizarre.
Well, because the last administration knew that these things were laws but didn't enact them.
He said the last 8 years not allowed to enforce laws on the books. He said, it's easy for these senators, it's easy for these residents of the communities or people who are here illegally to say, this is what ICE needs to do. He said, I'm an agent. I'm the director of this agency, and I can tell you because I've lived it firsthand. He said we used to, under President Trump, we were able to go into the jails when illegals were arrested, criminal illegals were arrested. We were able to go in there and file paperwork. paperwork. They would get like 10 of these guys, 10 of these men, women, these illegal criminals every single shift. He said now, because they're not allowed to do that, these individuals leave the jail, they go back into the communities, and then guess what ICE has to do? They have to go door to door. He said, we're not going to seek anyone out. We know exactly who we're going to get. We'll show up at their door, we'll arrest them, and then we'll go inside their house or whatever. We'll discover that there are more people within their families that need to be arrested. And he said, so it's putting our officers in harm's way, but also the illegals don't want them in their houses, but they give them no choice.
It's not a popularity contest, but it is the law.
Right. Meanwhile, 10 minutes after the hour, and by the way, those whole surge of illegals that came across our border, the unaccompanied minors, a lot of them ended up being MS-13, which is a problem, I believe, for illegal immigration,
and a problem
too.
more people know about than just Fox News viewers.
Right. I think so.
Meanwhile, Jillian's got some news.
That's right. Good morning to you guys. We are following some breaking news from the overnight hour, so let's get you caught up on that. An attacker blows himself up after throwing a grenade at the U.S. Embassy in Montenegro. No one else was hurt, and there is no major damage to the building. Right now, embassy officials are working with police to identify the suspect and a motive. Police officers lining the streets saluting a Maryland police officer who made the ultimate sacrifice, the second cop murdered in just 12 hours. Corporal Mushahid Ramzidin was off duty when he was shot and killed trying to help a woman threatened by her estranged husband.
He was not working, needing help. He immediately responded to that plea for help, but he saved her life by giving his own.
Ramzadeen was a Marine Corps veteran, a 14-year veteran of the force, and Medal of Valor recipient. He leaves behind a wife and 4 children. His death coming shortly after Alabama officer Justin Bila was shot and killed in the line of duty. The southern border wall is going up, part of it anyway. Federal authorities starting construction to replace a section of the wall. It's a little more than 2 miles long, located between Calexico, California and Mexico, an area known for drug smuggling. The original barrier, built in the 1990s, will be torn down. The Trump administration still needs $18 billion to extend the wall. The world mourning the loss of evangelist and Christian icon Billy Graham, the pastor, passing away in his sleep at 99 years old. On Saturday, his body will be transported in a motorcade from the Billy Graham Training Center in Asheville to Charlotte, North Carolina, for a private family viewing. The public can pay respects at the Billy Graham Library on Monday and Tuesday. A private funeral and burial is set for next Friday. Guys.
All right, Jillian, thank you very much.
Private. It's going to be private. Okay.
Meanwhile, coming up on this Thursday, one major university just told students to quit using the word man. They say man is sexist.
And the doors are now open at CPAC. We are live there with a preview. That's next.